On this episode of InfoHub In Depth, we take a look at the Essequibo Coast to highlight some of the developments taking place to improve the living conditions of residents. Then to frontline communities such as Whitewater, Barometer and Kaikan, where the GDF is boosting security as part of safeguarding our borders from outside threats.
The county of Essequibo was first occupied by the Dutch for almost 200 years, from the early 1600s to the 1800s. It is from this occupation that modern Guyana, consisting of three counties, Demerara, Berbice, and Essequibo, was born. Just as it played a critical role in the development of modern Guyana, Essequibo is once again leading the way, this time as a model of what good regional administrative practices and prudent financial management can achieve in times of resource scarcity. To get to Essequibo, we left Georgetown at 6 in the morning and traveled by road south to the Demerara Harbour Bridge, which then took us west across the mighty Demerara River, north to Vredenhoop and west to Parika, a total distance of 43 kilometers from Georgetown. A travel time of a little under an hour. However, given it was peak traffic and we had to contend with two-lane traffic on the Demerara Harbour Bridge, this journey took us almost 2 hours. From Parika, we traveled across the mighty Essequibo River by boat to Supinam and once again by road to the Regional Administrative Complex of the Regional Democratic Council in Region 2 at Anna Regina. There we met with Regional Executive Officer Rupert Hopkinson, himself an Essequibian and the son of former Regional Chairman Kenneth Hopkinson, also known as Baji, who served Region 2 in the 1980s. He is the man in the middle of it all. Now let us make it clear as to why we're here. The regional administration, through its REO, Hopkinson, tells us that through prudent management of funds allocated to his region for current expenses, the region has been able to save in 2017 a saving of a whopping $250 million. These funds were then used to effect works aimed at relieving the suffering of residents.
You mentioned savings, $250 million. How was the region able to accumulate that kind of savings?
Well, a good question. We have been responsibly awarding projects in accordance with the procedure or the rules set out by the National Tender Board, right? National Tender Board or procurement law says that the project must be awarded to the lowest responsive bidder. Responsive means that the person who has got the requirements, right? Hitherto, projects were awarded willy-nilly. I have to say that projects were awarded if I know this contractor, if this contractor is favored. And so we found that even that contractor, there's evidence that even contractors that bid way above the lowest tender were given contracts. And therefore, it interferes with how much you can save or how much excess you can have. But we didn't do that. We did what we thought was the right thing. And so that we were able to accumulate piece by piece, piece by piece. In fact, in 2016, we accumulated $147 million, right? In 2017, we accumulated $250 million. In 2018, we have been able to acquire, as of today, $80 million. Now that's magical, right? But if you were able to spend judiciously, in other words, to carefully spend or expend the taxpayers' dollars, the nation's funds, you will be able to do this. There's no mystery about savings. It's mathematically impossible not to save. And so what we have been having all the time. In the first place, these places have been neglected in previous years because the funds that should have been used, the excess funds that should have been used to execute these projects were used for other purposes. I don't want to say, but were used for other purposes. Because how can we now find all these savings? How can we, when a similar budget was given all the time? That is a task, I think, for the government to respond to, or the Public Accounts Committee. And it's serious. It's serious because it has implications for economic development. Because if every region is to save not $250 million a year, $100 million a year, in fact, from the 10 regions, you'll get $1 billion. And if you talk about the ministries, you can't quantify how much money you'll get. And there's a story in economics of the multiplier. $1 billion is not $1 billion. $1 billion is the result of a chain of spending and the creation of business activities and the development of economies. It's not $1 billion.
Our site visits begin at Liberty, almost 20 miles down the Pomeroon River, another boat ride. At Liberty, we met head teacher Garraway-ALLEN.
My name is PANSY Garraway-ALLEN, a teacher, Liberty Primary School, Lower Pomeroon.
Okay, Ms. Garraway, could you tell me what your school's population is like?
Presently, we have 46 on roll, nursery, primary together.
All right, I recognize that some amount of development has taken place in terms of, as a matter of fact, we're standing right now in a brand new building. We came on to what appears to be a new landing. Could you tell us what existed previously?
Yes, previously, the situation was very bad. It was almost a threat to any person who would have used the landing. The lower part of the stelling, some parts were rotten. A few treaders from the step was missing because the foundation was no more there. And we keep writing and asking because during that time, we also had a pregnant teacher in the late state. From the step to the stelling, some parts of the frame of the previous stelling was also rotten. And walking there was a risk because at times we have to choose spots to step on to avoid being on the ground in any serious state. It was also not good enough for the children because at times we'll have to do tutoring, guiding them where to walk and avoid any sort of running or so on it.
Okay, so how long has this new platform been created?
During the month of February, it was completed.
And what kind of relief have you seen from them to now?
Oh, it's great because we as teachers, with the extension especially, we are grateful. We have an all-female staff, and during the springtide, in the mornings, the tide would be rather low, causing some trouble to us. The flat was very far out, and the boats in which we travel to school, they are large. And when we get to school at times, we would normally have to stick our skirts in the tights, pulling boat rope to get up to the stelling, which was very strenuous for us as females, as well as the children would have had to step into from one boat to another to get to the landing, which was in the same state all the while.
And when we're talking about this landing being in this state, how long has it been like that?
That's probably about a year in the very serious state. But before then, as we observed it was going apart, we were putting it in our reports and anticipating works even before it was started. But nonetheless, we are grateful for what was done, and we must say thanks for the great relief that has been brought to Liberty.
Ario Hopkinson shares a little more of the details with us.
We found a situation that was dangerous to the children and teachers. And in fact, the head teacher pleaded with us. And after our pleas went on deaf ears, so to speak, because we couldn't have done the work, she said that she would close the school. She said that she has no alternative. And you heard her speak a minute ago. Because of the danger and the imminent threat to life and limb, as she put it, we decided that we must have this thing done. What was beautiful for us is that we had savings. I like to say how much savings we had. We had $250 million from 2017, and so we decided that we are going to respond to this emergency. I'm very happy. You know, I'm elated that we were able to do this, because you've heard our praise, the response. And I think the fact that we have been able to rescue, so to speak, the situation at Liberty is a good job done, not only for Liberty, but for the region as well.
Okay, this situation at Liberty, how long did it really exist?
I started working here in the region about almost 2.5 years. And since I came, there were problems. But of course, budgetary allocations did not permit us to do anything. You get your budget and it's decided what should be done. This was not, unfortunately, on the priority list. But the problem persisted, and we kept promising, and that is all that we could have done, that we will do something. And when the opportunity came, we did something. You see, when you're given a budget, when budgetary allocations are made, it specifically says what they want to be done. If they didn't have enough money to do the work at Liberty, you couldn't have done it. We were able to do this because we had savings. Then we could have said to the ministry, we could have moved money around and asked for permission to do so. And we took the liberty, coincidentally, the name of the school, we took the liberty to sort of get the work done. I understand that had its problems, but of course, I think the problem, any problems would have paled in comparison to what would have been accomplished by having done this. This is a worthy project. Hitherto, before now, children had to wend their way, so to speak, or to pick spots to get to school. And so this has been done to ensure that situation does not take place. Because learning takes place in an environment that's enabling. You can't learn if you can't get to school properly. You can't learn. And so we're proud. The region is very proud that it has accomplished this task for Liberty.
So here I am, 18 miles up the Pomeroon River at Liberty. I'm standing on a newly constructed landing, which the head teacher says has really brought relief to the students and teachers attending the Liberty Nursery and Primary School. Because for too long, they have had to deal with a treacherous landing which posed a tremendous danger to those who attend the school and work here. Stay tuned as we continue to track developments around the Pomeroon-Superior region, that is Administrative Region number 2.
At Dartmouth is the birthplace of renowned Guyanese veterinarian and politician Dr. Ptolemy Alexander Reid. He served as Prime Minister of Guyana from 1980 to 1984. Here a much-needed bus shed was constructed for residents. Of course, the funds came from that $250 million saved by the regional administration.
As we continue to track the projects that were implemented by the regional administration, Region 2, from the $250 million that were saved in 2017, we are now standing on the Dartmouth Public Road where a bus shed was constructed, and I understand from at least one resident interviewed that it is of great significance because it helps them to stay out of the weather and stay dry even if it rains when they are out here for transportation.
We caught up with Andela Duncan, a long-time resident, enjoying the comforts of the recently constructed public facility.
We had one, but it used to flood when rainfall.
Mm-hmm. And how long ago that was gotten rid of?
Was how long now? Okay.
This one replaced it? Was it here when this one was built?
Yeah.
Okay, but it used to flood, it was dilapidated.
Yeah.
And so on. How convenient is this, you know?
At least it good because when you come out for catch vehicle for go to work, if rain come, you could come into the bus shed for shelter.
Okay, so you're happy for this kind of development?
Yeah.
We also met Anna, a villager who cooks and sells food a few steps away from the bus shed.
I grow in this area, barn and grow in this area.
All right, so you know the bus shed that was down the road there.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about the bus shed?
The bus shed was very old I mean, like the tops, they rotten and the boards that they falling off and so. So,
So it was a wooden bus shed.
yes,
So
not
if
really a wooden. It had like concrete, but the concrete that it burst like and you know those things. It's very bad.
all right, so if you were standing out here and rain came down, what would have happened?
Yeah, you get wet because it used to wet. Nobody couldn't go and shelter in the bus shed or so.
Okay, so now the RDC has done what I might consider a nice little concrete, well painted bus shed and so on. How do you see that improvement? How helpful has it been?
Yes, very helpful because now you could go in and sit down, you know. Right now the sun is very hot. So you could go in, if you come out on the road to catch transfer, you could go in now and sit down, you know, and wait until your transfer come or whatever. You ain't getting wet nor sun ain't really thing. So it's very useful right now.
And of course, we asked Ario Hopkinson to explain further.
We continue to check on the projects that were done with saving of $250 million by the Region 2 administration. We are at a bus shed that was constructed at Dartmouth. Ario, could you give us some background to the necessity of this bus shed?
Yes, by strange coincidence, I'm from Dartmouth, so I know about this bus shed. It was constructed many years ago, about 25 years ago, and then of course there was no other bus shed until this one was erected, almost in the same spot. The old bus shed, apart from being in a very bad state, not workable, it used to flood, as you just heard, right? And it remained a place where people could not have got proper shelter from the vagaries of the weather. And we have responded to complaints upon complaints, and we have had the bus shed built, and now people are satisfied. It's the only bus shed in the village in the first place. So when this one was not workable, there was no real place to shelter from when you had very bad weather. Even the zinc, I mean, strange. Even it leaked, and nobody paid attention. And I'm sorry, but what people are saying is that this is because of the voting patterns. You know what Dartmouth is, and so we have had to respond to that that allegation. In fact, they complained about the regional administration. They said they voted for you and you couldn't correct it, and so we were not able to build the bus shed because there was no budgetary allocation directed to the bus shed. And so luckily for us, happily for us, we were able to realize some savings, and we responded to what we deemed an emergency.
Our next stop took us to the offices of the Enterprise Evergreen Neighborhood Democratic Council. There we weren't able to see or get comments from the overseer, whom we understand was out visiting the RDC at Anna Regina. However, we were allowed a tour of the grounds and internal facilities of the premises. There we found the building cramped for space, poorly filed and stored important proprietary records, and an environment literally unfit for the provision of such important services as provided by the NDC to the residents. But what does this have to do with us checking out developmental works conducted using funds from that $250 million saved by the RDC? Well, to answer that, let us visit our next site. So now we're here at the Unity Park. We understand that Phase 1 of this project was initiated by the regional administration in partnership with the Ministry of Communities. However, at the end of that phase, works were still left undone. Phase 2 was initiated by the regional administration with funds from the historical saving managed in 2017. The works entailed the construction of a concrete, steel, chain link and timber fence to prevent animals grazing within close proximity and vandalism to the existing building. Ario Hopkinson also highlighted the decision of the RDC to remove the offices of the Enterprise Evergreen NDC, which we previously visited, to these much more suitable locations. It is clear in our mind that this would bring great relief to the overseer and officers of the NDC, and certainly to residents who utilize their services. Of much more importance, however, the proper filing and storage of proprietors' deeds of ownership and other important documents can be achieved. There is no questioning the old adage which says a nation's health is its wealth. It is natural, therefore, to expect a forward-thinking regional administration to make efforts to improve the conditions under which healthcare is provided. We found Medics Anna Hubbard, who's been at the Anna Regina Health Center for almost 5 years. She spoke to us about the constraints previously obtained at the facility.
Let me first say this has been something that's been longly overdue for us, and that we are glad that's here. Due to the fact that the population that we serve, our catchment area is from Lima to Treefront, which is a very big area, and our population is heavily populated also. Our center is small, so it definitely cannot accommodate or house some of the patients that come to clinic, especially on Fridays. So this here is something that we are longing for, because we are also extending more services to the people of Region 2. Because not only persons from between Treefront to Lima come to our health center, persons from in Pomeroon and as far as Superdam.
Okay, prior to the new RU being in office, have there ever been recommendations made to the regional administration about the necessity to have this building?
Yes, that's constantly going every month when we have our normal staff meetings.
Dr. Fitzpatrick previously did an attachment at the Anna Regina Health Center. He spoke to us about the constraints experienced and the benefits of adequate health care facilities.
The population size for the health center sometimes is too small because the clinics are big and they don't have enough doctor to accommodate all the patients, or the clinics would run late in the day.
Medics Hubbard and Dr. Fitzpatrick explained the perceived benefits to be had from the extended and remodeled healthcare facility when completed.
As in millions of staff will be much more comfortable. As in terms of working area, it's always small. We're a large staff actually, because we also include dental services. So the spacing was an issue. Definitely was an issue. So now we'll be extending more service, making our patients, our clients comfortable also. Because comfort wasn't one of our things that we could have done normally, because persons were outdoor due to the filling of our clinic. So this would be more comfortable for our staff and the people that we serve.
The working area, the working conditions would be better, which in turn would make the work go smoother, which in turn would turn over to the population, would be more satisfied that they would be able to see the doctor faster and be able to get treatment in a timely manner. And they don't have to go all the way to the hospital. It saves time, it saves money, that people don't have to travel all the way to the hospital. We'll be able to access medical care right here at the health center.
Here again is REO Rupert Hopkinson to explain the thinking behind using funds saved from current expenditures to realize this transformational project.
I dare say that all our projects were very helpful to the cause of development in the region. But this project in particular, which received heavy recommendation from the RHO, is going to be a very useful addition to our health facilities and our health delivery in the region. This particular center serves a larger catchment area. In fact, the largest catchment area in the region. There are some heavily populated housing schemes, and there, of course, the the hinterland areas of Tapakuma, Mainstay, and Lima Sands, which have smaller health centers and are limited in the resources and the pharmaceuticals at their disposal. And so we are very proud of this place. In fact, we have not only done an addition to the facility, but we have actually took out the guts of the center, if you will, and we are replacing all of that. So this, at the end of it, will be a beautifully finished building. And in fact, what we've done, we have taken the doctor's quarters right here, and utilized that as a temporary dispensary while we found adequate housing for the doctors, because we wanted to make sure that whatever we do here will be done properly.
All right, I know this project is being funded from that savings in 2017. Why is it still ongoing in 2018?
Oh, because we wanted to do the entire building, like we said, not just an extension. We had toilets built, we had trestle built, and so on. a number of black tanks, so to speak. And so it has taken that time because we required time to move from the center itself to the building which housed the doctors. And of course, we needed time for the doctors to be adequately housed in the residential area. So the doctors are nicely housed, in fact. And so we have moved the dispensary here. And so now we're finishing up. But we're not so far beyond the completion time. But this project was awarded, I think, was in December.
And just like a nation's health being critical to its wealth, a nation's children ought to be protected and developed since they represent the now and the future. The protection is guaranteed with projects like the sitting area created at Cotton Field. According to the REO, this sitting area is intended to bring relief to those who dwell within the area on an almost daily basis, especially when awaiting transportation.
Let me tell you first of all what precipitated the sitting area. This used to be a trench, much like what you see over there. It is either maintained by costly revetment or it has to be cleaned all the time and desilted. And so the idea came about that we should do a sitting area over this trench which we consider useless and which of course harbored reptiles, alligators and so on. The sitting area is intended, if you can see lots of children are passing there, the sitting area is intended to provide a sort of waiting area, if you will, one, for students who would have to really wait for transportation to go home. They'll go and they'll stand along the roadside and so on. This was a place where sheep and goats reside. In fact, there is a street there that we used to call Cow Dung Alley, right? And got its name because cows would sleep there and do what they have to do there. And we have constantly a place where students navigate around droppings from cow and animals, where students and animals, as you can see our flower plants there's some animals have already nipped at them. And so we wanted to avoid that kind of thing. And so we decided to make this into a gated area where, for the safety of it as well, you know. So that is what the sitting area is. This is the first phase of the sitting area. And it was done from the $250 million, or you like to say $250 million that we saved. So no additional allocation had to be budgeted for this project. And we feel that upon completion, it's going to be of immense use and benefit to the students and the academic community as a whole.
This never-seen-before facility sits in the heart of the region's academic community. The second phase of its development will bring much added benefits to students, teachers, regional education officials, and many other stakeholders. REO Hopkinson continues.
Secondly, the sitting area is going to be an area where there will be Wi-Fi services. And so, of course, an academic community like we have here, in fact, this academic community comprises 2 secondary schools, including the Anna Regina Secondary School, IDCE, GSA, the Sir Potter College of Education, CPC, and there are numerous government officials living here. So it provides a place where they can all come and sort of have internet services, right? It will be lit as well. But alongside that, the fact that it's going to be an area that is representative of the entrance to an academic community. No unilateral decision. For example, the decision to do the landing at Liberty was first of all pushed by the regional education officer. Said, look, we got this money, we saved this money, let's do this. The decision to do the health center at Anna Regina was pushed by the regional health officer, and they said, look, we have some savings, this is what we want to do, right? And so projects were generally executed as a consequence of the justifications of the relevant head of program.
I am Kidaki Amsterdam, reporting from Cotton Field. I'm surrounded by the Cotton Field Nursery School, the Department of Education Region 2, the Anna Regina Multilateral School, the Cottonfield Secondary School, the Guyana School of Agriculture, Essequibo Branch, CPCE, Essequibo Branch. Stay with us as we continue. Tune in for our next episode.
The future of Guyana has never looked better. Our nation is on the cusp of a development program like never seen before. While Guyana is now emerging as an energy giant through the discovery of massive reserves of oil and natural gas, it is your government's intention that the huge benefits emerging from this will go where it matters most, to you, the people of this beloved country. There is a surge of confidence in the way Guyana is governed once again, and the level of investor interest is unprecedented. Guyana is poised to become the breadbasket of the region, and the pace at which this nation will grow through prudent fiscal management will be nothing short of impressive. But more than anything else will be the way every Guyanese, regardless of color, class, or creed, becomes a part of this historic period of national transformation, sharing in the wealth and well-being of it all as one Guyana.
The unstable situation in Venezuela and the ongoing Guyana-Venezuela border controversy has resulted in a surge in illegal migration. This has the potential to open avenues for illegal activities such as gun running and narco-trafficking in Guyana. The beheading of a young Guyanese minor by the well-known and feared Venezuelan Sindicato gang and reports of harassment from Venezuelans by residents prompted the government to shore up security measures in these areas. As a response to these threats, Whitewater in the Barima-Waini region, Region 1, and other communities near Guyana's border with Venezuela were declared frontline communities by President David Granger.
The Commander-in-Chief, who chairs the Defense Board, has taken the lead in conducting outreaches to the locations to interact with residents and assure them of the measures being taken to secure those communities which span the 800-kilometer border with Venezuela. In this vein, the head of state instructed the Guyana Defense Force to brief the Parliamentary Committee on security preparations taking place. The President also expects that civil society will also be kept informed. This commitment led to him foregoing attendance at a recently held 29th Intersessional Meeting of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, in Haiti. The President was represented by Foreign Affairs Minister Carl Greenidge.
During his visit to Whitewater on February 16, the President updated residents about the Frontline Village policy, which includes the setting up of military patrol bases and heightened 24-hour security by the Guyana Defense Force and the Guyana Police Force. Minister of State Joseph Harmon, during a post-cabinet press conference, disclosed that a concept note on the Frontline Village policy was aimed at greater inclusion of all communities on our national borders.
The note highlighted the need to address such issues as citizenship, registration, economic security and employment, education, information and communication, national defense, public security, public health, public infrastructure, public service, and social cohesion. Cabinet adopted a concept note and agreed on a formula for its implementation.
The meeting with the residents was held at the new patrol base, which was set up by the GDF in the community on February 14, after the Regional Intelligence Committee reported in a letter to the head of state some security concerns as a result of the current situation in Venezuela. The reports were acted upon swiftly by the government, and the base was set up in less than 72 hours.
Residents expressed gratitude to the head of state and security forces for their swift intervention following the threats from the Sindicato gang.
When you say some things about tighten up security, I feel happy because I know our residents that live in Whitewater here would be more safety. When you speak about safety, truly indeed we need a strong security in this village Whitewater. And even so, Yarikita, these close by entering areas where these people have been entering into the villages so easily. So His Excellency, truly indeed we are very happy much for that. And I do hope that whatever solution that you may have in discussion with the Tushao and the regional chairman, that it can be early to the residents so we too can have an input to it to say to whatever we can make decisions in the earliest opportunity.
President Granger, who was accompanied by Chief of Staff of the GDF Brigadier Patrick West, member of the National Security Committee Brigadier Bruce Lovell, and Commander F Division Senior Superintendent Ravindra Dutt, Budram called on the Army, the police and the regional administration to continue to work closely together with the central government to ensure the safety of frontline communities. The residents were also updated on the referral of the border controversy between Guyana and Venezuela by the United States Secretary General on January 30 to the International Court of Justice, ICJ.
Since Guyana became independent in 1966, 52 years ago, our western neighbor Venezuela has been claiming this very land that you're living on. You all are not Venezuelans, you are Guyanese. But Venezuela has been claiming this land all the way up to the Essequibo River. They've been claiming the Barimo Waini, they've been claiming the Corrini Mazzaroni, they've been claiming Pataro Separoni, they've been claiming the Rupununi. But we know that nearly 120 years ago, an international tribunal decided where the boundary should be between Venezuela and Guyana. And we have been struggling for the last 52 years. And only last month, the Secretary General of the United Nations decided that this controversy would go to court and we will settle it. I am very sure, Whitewater, that after this matter goes to court, you'll be able to live in peace and that you will not have any more provocation.
Residents were told that while there is an end to provocation in sight, all branches of government along with the security forces and residents must work together to defend and protect the country.
I have the responsibility. The police has the responsibility. Mr. Budram is here. He's in charge of the F Division, the biggest division in the Western Hemisphere. From Marawana right down to Warivana. Achieve it. Some of you never got to achieve it. Tomorrow I'll be there. From north to south. But what I'm saying is this. The police force is there to protect you. The defense force is there to protect you. The region is there to look after you. And we want to make sure that you're safe. And I'm here because I'm concerned about your safety. I'm here because I don't want anybody to attack you. I don't want anybody to hurt you. I don't want crimes to be committed against you. I can't be everywhere. The police can't be everywhere. The defense force can't be everywhere. So we have to learn from you how best to protect you and how you can protect yourself. And this is something I want the Army and the police and the regional chairman to discuss. So if within Whitewater, within Barometer, within the various settlements, you feel that there is some way of creating a community policing group so that when outsiders come in, you'll be able to come together and ask them, where are you going? What's going on? What are you doing here? Keep an eye out for them. But the police and the army can't be everywhere. We want you to be able to protect your own community. So when I'm gone in days to come, I asked the chairman to sit down with the army and the police so that we can, and the Bushra, of course, to decide how we can help you to protect yourself.
In his 48th Republic anniversary address to the nation, President Granger said Guyana intends to pursue our case before the ICJ in coming months with the same determination as its rejection to the unwarranted claim to our territory in the past years.
We are confident that our cause is just and our case is sound. We are committed to defending our motherland. Guyana's constitution stipulates that the state's defense and security policy shall be to defend national independence, preserve the country's sovereignty and integrity, and guarantee the normal functioning of institutions and the security of citizens against any armed aggression. Our citizens' safety is the state's paramount objective. Our people must be safe in their homes, villages, and places of work. Their property must be protected against crime.
Further, the president said Guyana looks forward to the intensification of cooperation with friendly foreign states, especially in building capacity for the Defense Forces Technical Corps to improve the national infrastructure countrywide, to defend our territorial integrity, to protect our citizens, and to respond to emergencies. International cooperation, he noted, is essential to preserving this continent as a zone of peace, to preventing and interdicting transnational threats such as drug, gun and human trafficking, and the spread of contagious diseases and terrorism.
We Guyanese are proud of our country. Our national anthem sings of a land of rivers and plains, made rich by the sunshine and lush by the rains, set gem-like and fair between mountains and seas. We Guyanese, in the exercise of our sovereignty, are defending the Republic. We are protecting our patrimony. We are ensuring that future generations will be able to inherit this beautiful country, to live in peace, and to enjoy the good life and prosperity which this beautiful country has to offer.
As his outreach to the frontline communities continued, President Granger, accompanied by Minister of Public Affairs Dawn Hastings-Williams, Chief of Staff of the GDF, and other senior officials of the force, journeyed to Kaikan in Cuyuni-Mazaruni Region 7, a stone's throw away from the border with Venezuela. While there, he encouraged citizens to be the watchmen of Guyana's borders.
You have to protect our people, and you have to protect our natural resources, so they wouldn't be plundered, they wouldn't be stolen, they wouldn't be taken away from us. So we in Guyana depend on frontline villages like Kaikan. We want Kaikan to be strong, we want Kaikan to be stable, we want Kaikan to be safe. I'm going to give you 10 suggestions. And these suggestions will help you to strengthen your community. The first thing is, as you heard these children, we are Guyanese, and the first thing I want to emphasize to you is our citizenship. We are different from anybody else, any part of the world, because we are Guyanese citizens. And to be Guyanese citizens, we want you to be registered. So everyone must have a birth certificate. Everyone must have a national identification card. We are different from the Venezuelans. We're different from the Brazilians. We're different from the Cubans or Colombians. We are Guyanese people. We're proud to be Guyanese people. Hear these two school children sing. It's Guyana for me, and we'll fight to keep you free. So the first thing we have to get right is our citizenship. And to show, I'd like to ask you, if there are children in this village or in the satellites who are not registered, we will send a team to help you to get them registered. But everybody in Guyana must have a Guyanese birth certificate. So when you're ready, you'll get a Guyanese identification card. If you want to travel overseas, you get a Guyanese passport. So even if you go to Venezuela and you run into a problem, you go to the Guyana embassy and say, I am a Guyanese citizen, look after me. That's what it means. When you have a passport, identification card, or a Guyanese birth certificate, I am obliged to look after you because you are part of my family, the Guyanese family. So citizenship is the first thing that we have to get right.
Residents there have also had a number of terrorizing encounters with the notorious Sindicato gang. In light of this, they welcomed the president's visit as well as the boosting of security in the area by the GDF. The community now benefits from 24-hour security.
Kaikan, like Whitewater, has been seeing an influx of Venezuelans, particularly traders and persons seeking health care. During a briefing with GDF ranks deployed in the area, the president was told that Venezuelan civilians and even military personnel come over to the Kaikan health post to seek medical attention for malaria and other diseases, while the traders come over to sell or to barter their goods with villagers from communities like Kaikan and Arau.
While these might be legitimate concerns to Shao of Kaikan, Claude Anselmo said a number of illegal activities such as the smuggling of illicit substances like marijuana and cocaine take place. This the GDF pledged to eradicate at all costs. The call for residents to play a greater role in their safety was reiterated by the head of state, particularly their health.
Mosquitoes know no borders. So we have to protect our communities against what we call vector-borne diseases. diseases that are carried by mosquitoes. Filaria can give you Bigfoot. Malaria make you sick. Dengue, chikungunya, Zika, all these are vector-borne diseases. Again, let us look to see what other illnesses take place in this community. Again, I assure you that we want to solve your problems, and if there are problems in this community, we'll help to solve those problems. If there are needs, we'll help to supply those needs as best we're able.
The regional chairman, Gordon Bradford, was called on to work closely with the community to develop plans that will add value to their food production through agro-processing, which will enhance their competitiveness and boost their village economies.
I want to assure you that in our budgeting for 2019, KAICAN will definitely be on the list for improvement of the health post and also to have a doctor present in the community, because that is our vision. That is our vision. We all know the difficulty in accessing areas, as His Excellency mentioned, the two most difficult regions, Region 7 and Region 8. It's not easy, but we'll be budgeting. I've asked Tushau, and he will contact you, headmistress. Not the headmistress, okay? But and the health personnel and the council to come up with a list of items that can be presented to us. So when we sit to do our budgeting, we can include those things that is so lacking in this community. His Excellency rightly said that this is a frontline community. And for me, a frontline community must be a community where things are easily accessible. Because when we talk about frontline players in a football team, we are talking about the best players up front. So if KAICAN, and KAICAN is a frontline community, then you should be given the necessary services that you so desire.
The President's outreach also extended to Baramita in Region 1 on February 28, where residents there were also assured of their community's protection.
All of us have come here with one mission, with one message. Let us keep the residents of Baramita safe, and let us keep this village and this region secure. My brothers and sisters, for over half of a century, Venezuela has been claiming our land, particularly Region 1, the Barima-Waini region, which is over 20,000 square kilometers. Region 7, the Cuyuni-Mazaruni region, which is over 47,000 square kilometers, bigger than the Netherlands. And biggest of all is the Rupununi, which is over 57,000 square kilometers, bigger than Costa Rica. So Venezuela has been claiming more than half of our country. The Barima-Waini, the Cuyuni-Mazaruni, and the Rupununi regions. But I want you to know that we are not surrendering 1 centimeter of our territory, not a blade of grass. We are here to work with your village, with your region, with your Tushau, with your residents, whether they are Carib or Warao or Arawak or Arakuna or Akawayo, to make sure Guyana is safe. Just as we inherited Guyana from our foreparents, we want to pass it on to our children.
Baramita too is vulnerable to illegal migration, the spread of disease, transnational crime, and attacks from the Venezuelan Sindicato gang. As such, President Granger said the government will work with the regional administration, the Tushau and the village councillors, as well as the army and police to boost security mechanisms. He also outlined the government's vision for development in the region.
I want to see a village where visitors could come to go up your rivers, to look at your trees, and Look at your animals. See this beautiful village, a happy village. So Baramita is important to you, and therefore it's important to me. It's important to the region. You, the people, the residents of Baramita, are valuable. I value every life. I want to see every child succeed. I want to be able to go to Kumaka or Mabaruma and see young business persons, young Carib businessmen and women, operating boats, running machines and factories, opening restaurants. I want to see Carib people from Baramita going into the Caribbean and telling them, I'm Carib. I'm more Caribbean than you. I want to see Baramita projecting its influence all over this country and all over the Caribbean. You are valuable. Do not see yourselves as being underprivileged. We want in Guyana to close the gap between the east of Guyana and the west of Essequibo. We want all Guyanese to feel equal, to have equal opportunities, equal access to the law and to public services. That's why we speak about education. Education will help to guarantee that equality, so that all Guyanese can have an equal chance to enjoy the benefits of this great land. My brothers and sisters, I see Parahima-Waini region as a zone of prosperity. I see Region 1 as the #1 region. I've said so before, I said it again. Region 1 should be the #1 region for agriculture, the #1 region for mining, the #1 region for scholarship and economic development.
In addition to providing improved social services such as quality health care to the Baramita residents, the President said his administration is working with the regional administration to improve communication and infrastructure, since these are critical to the development of enterprises and the delivery of services. Regional Chairman Brentnell Ashley expressed gratitude to the President for the leading role he is playing to ensure security of the citizens.
I want to thank you, Your Excellency, for coming to this community and to recommit your solidarity in ensuring that the lives of all Guyanese, and in specific the people of Baramita, is secured. I know that just a few days ago you were in the community of Whitewater, in which you made a similar commitment to the people who would have been gathered there. And we at the level of the Regional Democratic Council reiterate our firm commitment to working with the central government in ensuring and securing the vision of a good life for all Guyanese, and one of that being security of all our people. The people of Baramita would have over the years feel as though that the community development or the village development was not moving apace. And I can assure you that with the support of the central government through our budget cycle in 2015, 2016, 2017, we would have been able, as the Regional Democratic Council, to work closely and in partnership to achieve many milestones, such as the new complex that His Excellency will visit shortly, where it will house the primary school, the first nursery school for Baramita, the health center, and the living quarters for nurses, doctors, and teachers. And that would not stop there. There are other infrastructural development that are slated for Baramita, and it will continue to be a norm in which infrastructure, as well as education and health services, will be improved in this community.
Barometer's Tushao Trevor Matthews said that it is the first time in his memory that a head of state has visited the community. He noted some improvements in the delivery of services and development of infrastructure since 2015. Minister Dawn Hastings Williams, Chief of Staff of the GDF, member of the National Security Committee Brigadier Bruce Lovell, and Senior Superintendent Kevin Adonis, GPF Divisional Commander, were also present on that trip. Following the village meeting, President Granger visited the site of the almost completed $82 million government complex, which now houses the new Barometer Primary and Nursery School buildings, the medical center, teachers and nurses' quarters. The complex is part of the development of a model that will be replicated in other hinterland communities. Other government offices will be added to the complex over time.